And in fact, you've shared about the loss of your first wife to cancer.
Well, that was the other situation that sort of tipped me over into a whole new understanding. My wife had a diagnosis of cancer in December of 1981 with the expectation of maybe 2 years to live at most. And a lot of prayer groups were formed across New Jersey, well beyond the boundaries of the Episcopal Church, and I appreciated that because that's a love gift. These people were saying, we care about you, we care about your wife, we want to somehow do something for you, be with you in this crisis. You accept that graciously. My wife lived 6.5 years, not 2 years. Mm-hmm. And as she passed the 2-year boundary, which was quite in the public domain, you can't be in public life and have private life at the same time. You learned that already, I'm sure. But as it passed the 2-year time limit, the prayer groups began to take credit for it as if their prayers were actually curing her or pushing back the disease. It was almost as if it were a battle between God and Satan, and they were on God's side, and Satan was being pushed back because these God-fearing people were praying. Again, without meaning to be pejorative and with deep appreciation for the love that was expressed in that, I couldn't help but wonder if God really would operate that way, if God would allow my wife to live 6.5 years instead of 2 years, because lots of people prayed for her, because I was a well-known public figure in New Jersey. And I thought, suppose a garbage collector in downtown Newark, which is America's poorest per capita city, had a wife who had cancer, but nobody knew this garbage collector. He was not a public figure. So nobody prayed for his wife, or at least few people did, maybe 1 or 2 that might know him intimately. But there wouldn't be this massive outpouring. Mm-hmm. Would God respond less well to that? Do many prayers from people who are about someone who's well known change God's mind or make God alleviate pain or allow life? I just can't imagine God saying, well, I'm getting a lot of prayers about the bishop's wife, so let's give her an extra 4 years, and nobody's praying for this garbage collector's wife, so let her die quickly. I can't imagine that. And if I could imagine that, I would become an atheist. Mm-hmm. If that's the way God operates, I want no part of that kind of manipulative deity. Now, that forces you to make some brand new understandings of prayer. Mm-hmm. I don't even like the word anymore. I pray every day of my life, but I don't use the word prayer. I use the word meditation or contemplation. I think that prayer time is sitting or standing self-consciously in the reality of the transcendent dimension we call God, getting in touch with it, letting it fill your life so that you can begin to operate out of it. And as you operate out of it, you begin to live the life of prayer rather than do the activity of prayer. When St. Paul said that we are to pray without ceasing, he surely didn't mean we are to say prayers without ceasing. When people envision the kingdom of heaven as a place where people are praying all the time, I'd just as soon not go, if that's the reality that you've got to deal with. Now, how do you take that God energy that I believe is real and make it effective? Well, in the first place, human beings can't make God's energy effective. All we can do is channel it. But how do you channel it? It seems to me that you're in touch with it and that you live out of it, and you become an agent for life, for love, and for the enhancement of being. And you do it in your physical life, but you never deny that the thoughts and the love that flow out of you mentally toward those who are absent from you might not still be effective. I don't know how that would work, but as I said yesterday, I'm impressed with the fact that when people talk to their plants grow better. Now that sounds a little spooky and weird, but it seems to me that there's something about energy flowing from a human being to another human being, or even to an inanimate creature like a plant. There's something that we don't yet understand about how love connects us, how life is bound together, how we are far more interdependent than we think. And I'm at the place where I'm trying to understand that that's how God operates. God is not an IBM machine in the sky that I program so that you'll get an email. God is the very relationship that binds us together, and somehow we open ourselves to that, and that can be an effective way of loosing God's power in the world. And I believe God's power, which is love and life, is always beneficial, always enhancing, and even therapeutic. Does that mean that that'll make the difference in life and death. No, I think there's something pretty inexorable. I've never known prayer to heal a person with a pancreas cancer diagnosis, for example, because medical science does not have a cure for pancreas cancer. So that you know, I don't know anything that could do at that point except surround the person with love so that they can walk through the death experience without being alone, and I don't minimize what that gift is. The fact is we're all going to die. And I think there's some parts of our prayer routine that indicate that maybe some of us think if we pray long enough and hard enough, we might not die. I'm always amused at those advertisements that come on radio or TV about some drug, say Zopar, and they'll say 1 out of every 4 people will die of coronary disease. The sort of implication is the other 3 aren't going to die of something else. You know, we really need to be realistic about that. Death is not our enemy. I think Paul was dead wrong. Death is our friend. Death is our shadow. Death is what gives life its meaning. You walk with death every day of your life, and ultimately you put your hand in the hand of death and you depart this world. And somehow we don't seem to have that relationship correct.